Hey there viewers, welcome back to another episode of All Trades. Next is a Husqvarna. It's the all-wheel drive model HU725 AWD. It says it starts and doesn't run worth a darn. Yeah, it should have fired up a lot faster than that. Obviously runs, but I think it's starving for fuel or air or something like that. Let's get it in the shop here and take a peek at what's going on. Tried to clean it up a little bit. Tell you what, I'm smelling a strong aroma of gas. I did lift it up and I'm sure I tilted it some, but I really do have a strong odor of gas coming from this thing. Let's see. I don't see any large particles, but yeah, air filter definitely is dirty. I mean, yeah, this thing's topped up. Kind of curious though is the fuel that's in it. A lot of people will just add more. And the fuel that's bad just settles to the bottom, and that's usually the first of it that comes out. Well, that clamp is pretty loose. I didn't even need a pair of pliers to get it off. I can do it a couple ways. I can either pull the bowl off and let what it is, come through, and then we can pinch this fuel line off just to see what's going on, or I can just pull this fuel line and let it drain into a bucket. Right, so that we can catch. I'd like to see just the fuel first. Let's go ahead and pinch off the line. Okay, let's release it. Let's see what we catch. Actually looking pretty good. We'll let it settle, but I don't think there's any water in this. We'll let it settle just to see what it does. Let's go ahead and take the carburetor off of this thing. $8 mil on top. I'm just going to pull that out to the side for now. Pull off the quarter. Just leave that out the way for right now. We're going to need to pull this spring loose for the governor rod. I'm going to take out these two bolts and twist the carburetor off. And as long as we don't disturb this, this won't be a big deal. 2 3/8 bolts. And all we're going to do is twist the carburetor off of this linkage. It's a Z-bend. It had fuel in it, still has fuel in it. So no fuel was reaching it, it was sitting in the bowl. 13 mil or 1/2 inch. Be careful you do not lose that gasket. We are going to be verifying that that hole right there is clear and that hole right there is clear. That's the main pickup. Looking for any kind of debris in here, like that. We're going to clean all that out. Pull out that pin. Pull out your float and your needle. And I see a lot of grass and stuff inside the carburetor. So yeah, there's a lot of dirt and stuff inside this carburetor. These are really simple carburetors. All we need to do is just clean all these passages out. Get some welding tip cleaners. If you can take this gasket off without hurting anything, go for it. If you cannot, just leave it alone. You don't want to break that gasket. And since I can't remove that one, I'm just going to leave it alone. Clear that, make sure that it drops. You should be able to see light going through that hole all the way through the other side. That light going through that hole all the way to the other side. You should be able to shove this pipe cleaner in and see it, make it all the way down to that hole and make sure that it's clear. So you push that as far as you can. Just make sure everything's clear. This should go all the way up into this body of the carburetor. So I see it coming up through that emulsion tube. Like I said, anything you can get to, just gently clean it out. Like I said, there's really not much to them. If they get blocked up, they'll misbehave. So we're just going to clean that out. If this gasket comes off, get it out the way. It'll expand when you hit it with brake cleaner and whatnot. So can's just about empty. Just make sure there's no debris in there. Let's open up a new can. Keep in mind, when you spray in stuff like this, it's going to shoot out of unknown places. I mean, well, it should shoot out where you expect it, but it can also spray back to your eyes. That's all there is to rebuilding one of these things. Let's get it reassembled. I guess rebuilding and cleaning, not quite the same thing. A kit would come with a new needle valve, possibly a new seat. You can go as far as pushing the emulsion tube out so that you can get to it. But again, why? Unless it has holes coming off the side of it, I don't believe this one does. There's really no reason to start messing with it. If you think about it, you just pushed it out of a machined fitting and you're going to push it back into that same machined fitting. I don't know how many times you're going to be able to do that before you start having problems. So let's get our gasket put back in place. Get our bowl centered up. Make sure there's no debris here. I've already cleaned that off. And when we go to put this back on, making sure that that gasket's intact. You have two gaskets. You have that gasket and you have that gasket right there. So we're going to put this on. Spin it on down till it's pretty good. Ratchet's acting up. And then just give it a gentle snug. Let the gaskets do their job. All right, let's get it put back on the mower. All right, so this rubber gasket right here, that's what seals up your carburetor. Okay, make sure this spring is out the way. And we're going to put this governor rod back through this hole. All right, so push it in that way. Keep in mind, it's metal going into plastic, so be careful. All right, and then twist it up. Try to be very careful with it. Okay, we're going to set that back in place, making sure that our spring is out of the way. Just get those most of the way started and push this spring back on. By doing that is just keeping this governor rod out the way. Let's seal these up. The O-ring is doing all the work there. Okay, there's a tit sticking out right there. That goes in that groove. And then your 1/4 inch bolt comes down into here. That's snug. So this arm right here should move free. So your governor rod runs your throttle back here. It's controlling based on engine RPMs how it wants to open and close that throttle. This right here is basically your choke, okay? So when the motor's not spinning, the choke plate is basically closed. As the motor revs up higher and higher and higher, it opens the choke wide open. The governor again is controlling the throttle. So if the motor's running wide open like it's supposed to, it's pushed out because the flywheel has fins on it and it's pushing an air vein open. So you want to make sure this is clear, make sure it operates easily, make sure it operates this easily, and that's pretty much it. Now if you want to adjust your engine RPM, that's this tab right here. So you can pull it out to rev it up, you can push it back to make it rev down. I think this motor is 3,000, I will look it up. RPMs, I'll look it up and put it in the video so that you can put a tachometer on the spark plug coil boot. And then you would adjust this plate by bending out or in to adjust your RPMs for wide open throttle. So fuel supply looked good. I'm not concerned about that. I'm gonna change that this clamp out. I don't like it. Let's roll that back. Go ahead and put one of those on there. Don't forget to pinch off the fuel. Okay, rotate the tank back in place. Let's take the air compressor and blow this off of here real quick. Okay, I got that cleaned up. Got the gasket set back on there. I'm going to order a new air filter for the sake of the video. I actually just cleaned the air filter so we can see if we can get this thing working. Right, let's drop this old air filter in. Quickly check the oil. Now that it's been sitting. Well, there's no oil on the dipstick, so I tell you what, let's go ahead and do an oil change and sharpen the blade while we can. So changing the oil on these things is as easy as taking out the dipstick, have a catch pan ready, put your foot on one side and rotate it over. The gas is leaking and there's not much oil coming out of this thing. But I'm going to chalk up the wheel to make the dipstick the lowest point. Yeah, there should be a lot more oil than that in there. Folks, there should be considerably much more oil than that coming out of there. And what's coming out is just trickling out. I'm not even going to bother trying to sharpen the blades until we can verify this thing runs. Let's go ahead and flip it back up, fill it up with oil to the right level, pull off the plug and see what we got. So it's a little bit coked up like it had like it was burning oil, but not that bad. I'm going to give it a couple of pulls whenever I get the oil in it to clear out whatever could be in there. Let's see if it runs. I I've seen worse that has continued to run, and this might be one of them, I'm hoping. And I'm topping off the oil right now. I'm just going to give it a few pulls to push whatever's in that cylinder out, if anything. You know, like I said, it can use a new blade, it can use a new air filter, a new spark plug. I just want to verify that this thing runs before we put any money into it. Yep, that's about right. Now let's see if we can just make it run. Alright, well, she starts and runs really good. Kind of surprising since it didn't have any oil in it. Well, I'm going to put a blade on this thing and an air filter. Give it back to the owner. I'm not sure how long this one's going to last, but that was a surprise. Got the new blade and air filter on. Starts and runs like a dream. Just finished cutting part of the grass. You guys got something out of the video, really appreciate a thumbs up or a subscribe. Definitely helps the channel. I'll catch you guys on the next one.